Greetings, good evening, namaste. Welcome to our webinar based on the Affirmations for Self-Healing. I'm here with Brahmachari Premdas. My name is Nayaswami Devarshi, and let's begin with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswarji, beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yoganandaji, saints of all religions, we humbly bow at thy feet. Divine Mother, wake us up from our long sleep of delusion. Inspire within us the desire to always be moving forward into thy light, towards thee. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The topic today from Affirmations for Self-Healing is alertness. This is an interesting word to use because we don't often think of it in spirituality and meditation, but it's very important. This is what Swami Kriyananda writes about alertness. He says, there are two currents in life. One takes us downward toward unconsciousness, the other upward towards cosmic consciousness. The first is an impulse born of the sense of past familiarity. Life, like a lotus, evolves out of the mud of lower consciousness toward the light of divine awareness. Subconsciously, we imagine ourselves comfortable with the stages we've traversed so far, but we are not always so ready for the adventure of further growth. The second current in life is the soul's impulse. We cannot find happiness in turning back towards the mud. Fulfillment lies only in reaching up toward perfect divine awareness. To achieve it, we must be alert in everything we do, for in the flow of increasing wakefulness lies the joy we are all seeking. Let's affirm together, first out loud and then more and more quietly. I am awake, energetic, enthusiastic. I give my full alert attention to everything I do, knowing that in absolute consciousness I shall find God. I am awake, energetic, enthusiastic. I give my full alert attention to everything I do, knowing that in absolute consciousness I shall find God. I am awake, energetic, enthusiastic. I give my full alert attention to everything I do, knowing that in absolute consciousness I shall find God. And now, mentally only, I am awake, energetic, enthusiastic. I give my full alert attention to everything I do, knowing that in absolute consciousness I shall find God. And mentally pray, let me pray always with alert, awake attention to thy listening presence, knowing that thou dost hear the merest whisper of my thoughts. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And now Premdas will share on this topic.
Okay. Good evening, friends. Welcome again to this evening's topic on alertness. So when we think of alertness, the few words that come to my mind are awareness or being in the present moment and full of energy and be ready to give the right decisions, the right thoughts, and being in super consciousness in a way that attuning ourselves to the light. So these are the small thoughts that come to my mind when I think of alertness. So how important it is to be alert is the question. So I think for any person, you see any successful person, any person in any field, from sportsman, from artist, or from businessman, or now even the spiritual aspirant, alertness is very much important. Yeah. So, for example, Paramahamsa Yogananda ji says that we have to always keep our spine straight so that we are always, the energy flows upward and we will be more energetic, at the same time more alert to feel God's presence within us and around us. So I'm going to now read to you a small passage which I found very helpful. This is from one of the Precepta lessons. So in the first paragraph, Paramahamsa Yogananda tells about how to be important to keep your spine straight, which I just explained to you just now. Now I'm going to read the second paragraph of the same extract. And here Master says, your kingdom is omnipresences. This does not mean that you have to disregard and forget the body, but include your body in the expansion of consciousness. Do not be conscious only in the body. You must be able to feel this expansion in space, in the thoughts of others, in the perceptive quality of your mind, in an increased alertness of all your faculties, and in your increased capacity for enjoyment. And Master again goes on to explain that with increased alertness, what all things can be experienced by us. Color becomes more brilliant to you, sound more marvelous, feeling more exquisite and intense the further you advance on the spiritual path. You're not meditating if you're dosing. Never allow yourself to get into any negative state, but keep the attention constantly pointed to God. Be like the compass. Never let the needle of your attention swing away from God consciousness. No matter what you're doing, enjoy everything with the infinite and be happy always. Those are very beautiful words by Master, explaining how alertness can also on spiritual path, as we keep advancing spiritually, can help us feel this, even this surrounding world more better. And as we keep advancing more spiritually, I've heard that from other older acharyas that it's going to be more beautiful, more joyful, more blissful as we head towards God. And now it's also important to be alert, because God can come like a thief at night and knock on our door now. So now this one story that comes to my mind is of Lord Sri Chaitanya. Now I'm going to narrate you that story. So way long ago, the Chaitanya Prabhu came to India. He did not preach any sermons. He did not talk anything but the love of God. The burning love of God expressed wherever he went. He did not talk any wisdom. He spoke some few words, and there were like only 2 or 3 words, like Radha Radha, Radha Govinda Jay, and more like spirit and nature dancing together, victory to spirit and victory to nature. This was his words, and usually they were like all the hungry souls could feel this love, and they used to like follow him. Now, once what happened when Lord Chaitanya was walking through the village, he was singing victory to spirit and victory to nature. And he was singing in the streets. Men and women left the village and started following him, as if losing sight of the vast field. And now there was this, as Lord Chaitanya was walking, there was this washerman. When he saw Chaitanya, he said, "Don't talk to me. I'm too busy. Get away, you madman." And Chaitanya Prabhu was like, "You have to got to talk to me. All I ask you is to sing. Give me the happiness of singing my beloved's name, and then I'll go." This is how all our gurus just try to give us a taste of this divine bliss. And so this washerman who was washing then finally had to heed to Chaitanya Prabhu's request, and he thought, why not? Yeah, if I just sing whatever he's singing, he's going to leave me, and then I can continue my job. And he started singing. And as he started singing, all the clothes he was washing fell from his hands, and he started following Chaitanya Prabhu. The birds in all the nature started also singing with him the chants of God. And as they went singing, now this washerman's wife heard about this incident. She was like, "Oh God, what happened? Why is he following him? Who will take care of all the family?" And then she came. "What is this matter? You fellow crazy man? You may beat me up." So then Chaitanya Prabhu says, she has got like a broom in her hand now, and she's like trying to ready to beat the Chaitanya Prabhu and her husband. So now Chaitanya Prabhu says, "You may beat me up, but before you beat me up, just sing once with me." So the washerwoman also got tricked by in a good way, and she also thought, why not just sing once and get my husband back? And she started singing the song of God. And then what happened? The broomstick dropped from washerman's uplifted hands, and she also started singing, "Spirit and nature, spirit and nature." Then what happened as they started going, Chaitanya Prabhu, then this village gossip started spreading around everywhere. And all these village people all started coming. "What is the matter? You follow that crazy man and your husband." And the washerwoman said, all of this is being referred to the washerwoman. "Why are you following this crazy man and your husband into nowhere? Who is this person?" And the washerwoman says, "That is all right. You sing once with me, and then you'll understand." And all these village people started singing, "Spirit and nature, spirit and nature." And all these village people, whatever sticks they brought in, got dropped. And then soon there was 100, 200, 300, 500. All whoever came to drive these people away, all started joining. So, dear ones, as in the story, don't take the name of God in vain. Sing, live, and drink the name of beloved, and get all drunk with his name. And this is how Chaitanya Prabhu started attracting people. And in this story, one of the main reasons he was already having the contact of God, and also the alertness with which even the people could respond to, even in that few words they sang before joining him, was very important. Each time we'll have to be ready when the call comes to us. Now I'm also remembering that last year when Ananda had 50th anniversary celebrations last year at Ananda village, Jyotishji, or Dharmacharya of whole Ananda Sangha, was explaining this in his talks about how there's a wave flowing in, wave of grace. As you all see, there is this times of change happening right now. The times where the race of Dwapar Yuga, the higher consciousness is coming to this planet, and we all can open our hands and embrace it or close to it. But the best thing forward is to open our hands and feel and ride the same wave. Jyotish used to explain in the talk that with the help of masters and all of this, we can ride the wave along with them or get left behind. So it's all up to us whether we open our hearts and sing the Lord's name and ride the wave or be left behind. Like how Swami Kriyananda ji explains in the starting few lines, as read by Devarshi ji today evening, how there are two impulses we have. First impulse is to go to subconsciousness comforts which we have already experienced, or take the adventure where we know that in our soul we know that there's more joy we can go as we dive deeper and feel God's presence. And saying this, I would like to pass now to Devarshi ji. Thank you.
Thank you, Premdas. It's interesting that Swamiji writes that there are two currents in life. I think sometimes we think or hope that there might be three currents. We think sometimes that we can stand still right where we are and just take a pause and enjoy the progress we've made and look around and just be comfortable. But there is no standing still on the spiritual path. There's only those two currents. You're either going forward or you're drifting back. And the drifting back, it happens too easily. It happens when we just start going a little bit subconscious or even just passive and just kind of, just the blank mind. People see this in meditation. When they let the mind just be passive, it starts to drift. And sometimes you'll ask people, how was their meditation? And they'll say, oh, it was wonderful. And well, what was it like? And oh, I don't know. I don't know where I went. Well, where they went was probably subconsciousness. Inspired, deep, true meditation is not deep in the sense of deep down. It's uplifted and exalted. And it's really drawing upwards, and it's very alert and awake and ready. I was watching a video online of these 4 children in Spain who were having a vision of the Divine Mother. This was like maybe 50, 60 years ago. But people were filming them because they had these visions of the Divine Mother repeatedly, late at night, out in a field, and for a long, long time, many months. And people started filming it, and it was very interesting to see how alert they were to God in this case. Their heads were up, their eyes were wide open. Sometimes they would be talking, but they couldn't hear them, what they were saying. But their eyes were wide open and they were looking at the Divine Mother. And they were so engrossed in that people would take a bright flashlight, because it was dark night, and would shine it really suddenly in their eyes. And they wouldn't even blink because they were so paying deep attention to the Divine Mother. They were engrossed with intense alertness in that case. So this is the type of alertness and awake and readiness that we are wanting on the spiritual path, also in meditation. Now, like I said, it's too easy to drift backwards and go back towards that which is comfortable. I had an experience of this many years ago. I was living at Ananda Village, and after living in the same house for 17 years there, I moved to another house within Ananda Village. And it's not a big village. There's several roads, but this other house was on a completely different side of Ananda. And sometime, maybe 6, 8 months after I had moved, I had gone to our Sunday satsang and had driven there. This was in the day when you would drive around and physically attend a satsang rather than online. And I attended our Sunday satsang. And afterwards I was driving home, and I was just in a thoughtful mood, but it wasn't a really awake and ready and alert kind of mood. And I just found myself driving along, and I wasn't paying deep attention, but I was driving home. And I went into the driveway, and suddenly I realized I had driven all the way to my old home that I hadn't even been to in 7 or 8 months, and was a completely different route and a completely different road. And I wasn't even aware of it until I was driving into the driveway. And then I woke up. So I was awake enough to drive. I wasn't, running off the road or anything like that. So I was driving just fine. But I wasn't really, really awake in a very conscious, focused kind of a way. I was just letting the mind relax and drift and kind of be in this sort of mentally lazy kind of a zone. And when we allow ourselves to do that, we will go backwards. And it's comfortable when we do that. I was comfortable just going back to the old way. But that comfort, eventually it gets boring, and we realize this seed, this desire to make progress comes back. And so we reverse direction and drive back the other way and try to go in that positive direction towards the light. And in order to make progress on the spiritual path, we always have to be going forwards. We always have to be putting out energy. Now, if that current going back to the old ways is comfortable, well, that sort of implies that the other direction is a little bit uncomfortable. And in fact, it is sometimes. When we put out energy, when we're growing, when we're learning, we're being challenged. We're sometimes even tested, and it can be uncomfortable. And so the human tendency sometimes is to turn around when the tests come or when things start getting uncomfortable. Someone asked a question at a satsang recently that I heard. It was enjoyable to hear it. They said, how do I avoid the hurdles on the spiritual path? They're saying, how do I avoid the tests and the challenges? And I think we all sort of, many of us who have been doing this for longer laughed, knowing that, yeah, sometimes it's human nature to shy away from challenges and tests. But in fact, that's what really makes us awake and ready. When you're being tested and faced with a challenge, even danger, we are really awake and ready. And I've faced some tests and challenges in my life that really woke me up and made me pay attention and put out a lot of energy. And I went very far in that right direction by doing that. And if I just avoided it and said, oh, I want to be comfortable, you can't just be static on the spiritual path. You can't just be treading water and staying in the same place. You're either going forward or you're going backwards. And so this is why it's important to work with these qualities of energy, alertness, what Yoganandaji would talk about being awake and ready. When he came to America in the 1920s, he would give these lectures. And I think people were expecting this very quiet, inward yogi from India, but he would surprise people because he would run out onto the lecture platform and he would shout, "How is everybody?" And he would join them in shouting back, "Awake and ready." And he would shout again, "How feels everybody?" And everyone would shout, "Awake and ready." And the reason he did this, one reason was that he wanted his audiences to lift their energy up to a higher level, to be awake, alert, and ready, so that they could receive what he had to give. And in order for us to receive what God has to give to us, we have to be in an uplifted state, offering our energy up. Our part is, in a sense, is to meet God halfway. God's not going to come to us if we just kind of, shrivel down and slump our spine and sort of wait for him to come all the way to us. We have to put out some energy and rise up sort of to meet God. And it's in that uplifted direction that we see God, that we enter into divine grace. And then when we enter into that flow of grace, it uplifts us even much more stronger and much more powerfully. And so this is partly why Yogananda gave his energization exercises as the first and integral, really, part of the path of Kriya Yoga and the techniques of Kriya Yoga. In a way, those energization exercises are one of the techniques of the Kriya path and of Kriya Yoga, and are very, very important to be awake, ready, enthusiastic, alert, so that when we practice the techniques of meditation, we don't drift and we don't, doze and do this. The energy is uplifted and is going in that right direction. So these things are very, very important to understand alertness, energy, being awake. And there are practices and tools that they've given us to be able to do this. And so just watch yourself. If you find yourself getting a little too comfortable, be a little watchful and careful, because it likely means you're starting to you either have gone forward and you're stopping, but you can't stop for long. Either you're going to start drifting backwards or you have to start putting out the energy again. So always try to be in that current, that flow, that direction that's taking us forward on the spiritual path and in life itself. So now Premdas will share the reading again, and we'll do this affirmation a number of times.
Thank you, Devarshi ji, for sharing that. Very inspiring. So now what we will do is I'm going to read the reading again, and then we are going to do the affirmations maybe 3 times loudly, 3 times the medium voice, normal voice, then 3 times subconsciously, 3 times offering it at the super consciousness. Okay. Alertness. So there are two currents in life, one that takes downward towards unconsciousness, and the other which takes us towards cosmic consciousness. The first one is impulse, born of the sense of past familiarity. The second current in life is the soul's impulse. We cannot find happiness in turning back towards the mud. Fulfillment lies only in reaching up towards perfect divine awareness. To achieve it, we must be alert in everything we do, for in the flow of increasing wakefulness lies the joy we all are seeking. So now in a loud voice, please repeat along with me. I'm awake, energetic, enthusiastic. I give my full alert attention to everything I do. And knowing that in absolute consciousness, I shall find God. I'm awake, energetic, enthusiastic. I give my full alert attention to everything I do. Knowing that in absolute consciousness, I shall find God. I'm awake, energetic, enthusiastic. I give my full alert attention to everything I do. Knowing that in absolute consciousness, I shall find God. Now we'll do this in a normal voice. I'm awake, energetic, enthusiastic. I give my full alert attention to everything I do. Knowing that in absolute consciousness, I shall find God. I'm awake, energetic, enthusiastic. I give my full alert attention to everything I do. Knowing that in absolute consciousness, I shall find God. Now please repeat with me in a whisper. I'm awake, energetic, enthusiastic. I give my full alert attention to everything I do. Knowing that in absolute consciousness, I shall find God. I'm awake, energetic, enthusiastic. I give my full alert attention to everything I do. Knowing that in absolute consciousness, I shall find God. Now, please repeat mentally along with me. I'm awake, energetic, enthusiastic. I give my full alert attention to everything I do. Knowing that in absolute consciousness, I shall find God. Now offering the same at super consciousness, focusing at the spiritual eye. Please repeat along mentally. I am awake, energetic, enthusiastic. I give my full alert attention to everything I do, knowing that in absolute consciousness I shall find God. Please pray mentally. Let me pray always with alert, awake attention to thy listening presence, knowing that thou dost hear the merest whisper of my thoughts. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you for joining us. Have a good evening.